Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. You don't need to explain yourself to anybody. You don't owe the world your energy, your time, or your truth, especially when that truth is still being built. Too many people out here are busy trying to be seen. They want validation. They want applause. They want someone to say, "Good job." But here's what I know from experience. In the real world, power isn't loud. Power is composed. Power is calculated. Power is quiet. And when you focus on yourself, when you stay in your lane and shut out the noise, everything begins to align. You want to grow. Get silent. You want to win. Get focused. Silence is one of the most underestimated forms of strength. In a world where everyone is constantly sharing, posting, reacting, and needing to be heard, choosing to stay silent can feel like swimming against the current. But that's exactly why it holds so much power. Silence doesn't mean absence. It means presence with intention. It's the space where clarity lives. It's where real self-awareness grows. When you choose silence, you're not avoiding conflict. You're mastering your response to it. You're not giving up your voice. You're preserving it for the moments that matter. There's a discipline that comes with silence. It requires emotional intelligence to sit with your thoughts rather than rush to respond. It takes confidence to walk away from noise rather than needing to be the loudest in the room. It's not weakness, it's strategy. The loudest person is rarely the most powerful. Often, it's the one who observes, who listens, who watches the game unfold and learns before making a move. Silence allows you to gather your energy, protect your peace, and maintain control in situations where others may lose theirs. When you stop explaining yourself to everyone, when you no longer feel the need to defend your choices or prove your worth, that's when you step into real power. You no longer react just to be seen. You respond only when it's necessary, and that shift, that's when you begin to win, not because you shouted the loudest, but because you acted with precision. People underestimate the person who says nothing. They don't see you coming, but when you do move, when you do speak, every word lands, every action hits, because it wasn't rushed, it was chosen. Silence also protects your energy. It keeps you from getting pulled into unnecessary drama or distractions. You don't need to comment on everything. You don't need to be in every conversation. Your goals, your growth, your peace, those things deserve your attention more than public opinion does. Let others waste time reacting. You stay focused, you keep building, and while they're talking, you're becoming. That's the power of staying silent and grounded in your purpose. In silence, you learn what's truly important. You separate the noise from the signal. You hear your own voice more clearly, and most of all, you begin to trust yourself more deeply. Not every thought needs to be shared. Not every situation deserves your input. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay calm, stay quiet, and keep working. Because silence isn't just about what you don't say, it's about what you choose to do with the strength that comes from holding back. When you embrace that, you no longer need to chase power, you realize you already have it. Focusing on yourself is one of the most important and transformative decisions you can make. It means redirecting your energy inward, taking full responsibility for your growth, and choosing to invest in the person you're becoming instead of the opinions or distractions surrounding you. When you stop worrying about what others are doing, what they think of you, or how you compare, something powerful begins to happen. You start to rise quietly, steadily, and with intention. Your focus sharpens. Your priorities shift. You no longer waste energy trying to be everywhere or please everyone. You simply get to work on you. This kind of focus isn't selfish. It's essential. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't build anything solid if your foundation is shaky. When you focus on yourself, you begin to strengthen that foundation. You start to understand what you need to thrive, mentally, physically, emotionally. You begin setting boundaries that protect your time and peace. You become more intentional with your choices, how you spend your mornings, who you surround yourself with, what you allow into your space. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. You're moving forward even if it's quietly, even if no one's clapping yet. The truth is, growth doesn't always look glamorous. Most of the time, it's uncomfortable. It means saying no more often. It means distancing yourself from people or environments that no longer align with who you're becoming. It means sacrificing short-term comfort for long-term purpose, and that's why focus is so important. Without it, you get lost in other people's noise, other people's timelines. But when you stay locked in on your own path, everything else begins to align. Opportunities find you. Discipline becomes second nature. And most importantly, you start to respect yourself more deeply. You stop needing approval because your validation comes from progress. You stop comparing because you're too busy improving. You start to notice how different life feels when you're centered, when your decisions come from alignment, not anxiety, and that shift, it changes everything. You attract better relationships because your standards are clear. You handle challenges with more resilience because you've already done the internal work. You operate from strength, not scarcity, because when you focus on yourself, you stop reacting to life and you start creating it. None of this happens overnight, but every step you take in that direction compounds. Every moment you choose growth over distraction, discipline over comfort, peace over chaos, it adds up. It builds a life you don't need to escape from. One that reflects who you truly are and what you're capable of. So stay focused. Keep building. Don't worry if it's not loud or flashy. Quiet progress is still progress. The real shift happens when you stop chasing everything outside of you and finally commit to mastering what's within. That's when the breakthrough comes. That's when you become unstoppable. You don't need to announce every move you make. In fact, the more you grow, the more you realize how powerful it is to move in silence. There's something incredibly effective about keeping your goals, your progress, and your vision to yourself until it's fully developed. When you build in private, you protect your energy, you protect your focus. You give yourself space to evolve without interruption, without judgment, and without unnecessary pressure. It's not about being secretive, it's about being strategic, because when you finally show the results, they speak for themselves, and they speak louder than any words ever could. Public validation often becomes a trap. The moment you share your plans too early, you open them up to doubt, criticism, and distractions. Sometimes even well-meaning voices can dilute your vision. When too many eyes are on your progress before it's ready, you begin to question your path, not because it's wrong, but because it hasn't fully formed yet. That's why silence matters. It creates a buffer, a sacred space where you can make mistakes, learn, adjust, and grow without an audience. Growth isn't linear, and it's rarely glamorous. There are messy phases, setbacks, and moments of uncertainty. Keeping that process private gives you room to breathe and reset as needed. Success that comes from quiet consistency is unshakable. It's not built on trends or popularity. It's built on effort, resilience, and purpose. When you don't have to prove anything to anyone, you move differently. You focus deeper. You prioritize better. You become more disciplined because your motivation isn't rooted in external applause, it's driven by internal standards. That shift is where real change begins. And when the results finally reveal themselves, they carry weight. They don't need to be explained. They don't need hype. They stand on their own because they're real, earned, and undeniable. There's also freedom in moving silently. You free yourself from the need to perform. You no longer feel obligated to share every win or justify every choice. You stop looking sideways and start trusting your own direction, and that confidence becomes a magnet. People start noticing, not because you told them to, but because your actions created impact. They see the difference, feel the results, and respect the journey, even if they never saw the grind that built it. It's easy to get caught up in showing the world what you're doing, but real power comes when you don't have to. When your work speaks so clearly that you don't need to say a word, when you walk into a room and your presence says everything your mouth never had to, that kind of presence is built in private. That kind of confidence is built in silence. So protect your vision, build behind the scenes, let the work mature, let the results reveal themselves in time, because the most powerful moves are often the ones no one sees coming, until they can't be ignored. There comes a point in your journey where you stop needing to prove who you are and start focusing on becoming who you're meant to be. This is the shift that changes everything. When you stop living for the approval of others, you reclaim your energy. You no longer shape your actions around how they'll be perceived. You stop chasing validation and start building value within yourself, your work, your habits, your mindset. You begin to see that becoming is a process, not a performance. And real growth doesn't require an audience. It requires discipline, consistency, and an unshakable commitment to your own evolution. Trying to prove yourself is exhausting. It forces you to constantly look outward for confirmation that you're doing enough, that you're good enough, that you're on the right path. But the truth is, no amount of external recognition will satisfy an internal void. You can collect compliments, achievements, and applause and still feel like it's not enough because the foundation hasn't been built from the inside. Becoming is different. It's slower, deeper, and much more powerful. It's about building a version of yourself that feels whole without needing to be seen. When you shift into becoming, your standards change. You stop asking, "What will people think?" and start asking, "What feels right for me?" You stop performing for attention and start practicing for mastery. You stop trying to fit in and start standing out. Because now you're aligned with your values, not the trends. This creates a kind of peace that can't be shaken, even when life throws challenges your way. You've done the inner work, you've built the habits, you've earned the resilience, and because of that, you're not easily thrown off track. There's something freeing about not having to explain your journey. You know who you are, you know what you're working toward. You no longer need the likes, the applause, the attention. You're not chasing moments, you're building momentum. You understand that greatness isn't proven in a single act, it's developed over time. It's built in the hours no one sees, in the days when motivation runs low but you show up anyway. That's becoming. That's what builds confidence that's real and lasting. And here's the powerful part, when you focus on becoming, the results naturally follow. You don't have to scream your worth, people will feel it. You don't have to argue your value, your work will reflect it. The right people will be drawn to your energy, not because you try to impress them, but because they can sense the strength of someone who knows exactly who they are. Becoming is about embodying the kind of excellence that doesn't need to be announced. It's seen, it's felt, it's respected. So stop proving, start becoming, do the work, stay consistent, and let the results speak for you. That's where your real power lives, not in the noise, but in the quiet, steady rise of someone who's done the work and no longer needs permission to grow.